Hi, everyone. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late getting started here. Looks like we are waiting.
Hey, Leslie.
Hi, Kate. Just bringing up our slides. Welcome, everyone. 1 second here. Sorry, we just ended one meeting, so I'm trying to get our slides for this one.
While Leslie's doing that, if you could please sign in just by putting your name, your student's name and their class number and email. I'll also put that in the chat.
All right, so I want to welcome everyone to our first HSA meeting of this academic year. Tonight's meeting will be for secondary planning, college admissions, and our fall Title I meeting. I want to jump right in. We're joined by President Davis, who, because Dr. Soda, who normally gives this presentation, is out with COVID, we're going to have our presentation from President Davis, and I think AP Snyder is joining us to help with secondary planning. So I'm going to turn it over to President Davis.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And will you or someone else be able to click through for me as we get through? Great. Wonderful. If everybody, I think there's a few folks who are not on mute. So if you just have a chance to check, make sure that you're on mute. And if you have a question, I'm going to definitely be looking at the chat afterwards, and I stay logged on throughout the entire meeting. So we will have your question answered if you are new to this space. Welcome if this is your first Central High School Home and School meeting. Whenever I join, I like to provide a high-level overview of some things that are going on at the school. Today, we are starting off with athletics. So on this screen, there are some updates of how our sports teams are doing this fall. A few photographs, no one in particular, but we have our boys varsity football team in the upper right-hand corner and our co-ed varsity track and field cross country at a meet at Belmont Plateau right there. For the most part, our teams are having winning seasons. There are some of our sports records right there. We also have our golf team. Their regular season has actually already wrapped up, but JV football is ongoing, as is cross country. If you were not familiar, we have almost 30 varsity and junior varsity sports at Central across the school year. So these are our fall sports. We are going to be getting into the season of playoffs and championships very soon. So I look forward to providing more updates when we get to that point. Next slide, please. I think you can click one more time. There's one more picture that will pop up. So here are just some photographs of some things that have gone on at Central High School in the last few weeks. In no particular order, our senior class 283 in the upper left-hand corner hosted their first blood drive. Blood drives are a tradition at Central High School in partnership with the Red Cross. And the students had almost 80 donors sign up and give blood on that day. So that was wonderful. We do have parents sometimes who come to give blood, as well as neighbors and members of the community. So our next blood drive is scheduled on Valentine's Day, believe it or not, in 2024. Earlier this school year, in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a picture of what our freshman tea looks like. This is an event that we're so graciously supported by the home and school in throwing each year. This freshman tea is also part of the Central tradition. When I was a student at Central, we had a freshman tea as well. As you can see, it was a really busy space. Students were in our wrestling gym, and those trifold boards that you see on the tables are club boards designed by students who are currently members of clubs. The purpose of the freshman tea is to share more information about all of the clubs, so new students are able to learn about them and join. This year, we have just about 100 active student clubs at Central, which is something that's really special. We ran our freshman tea on the last half day we had, I believe it was the 29th. And that was really wonderful because students we had the opportunity to go to the freshman tea during their lunch period. And some teachers also were able to bring down their classes because it was our first SEL day, or social emotional learning day of the year. Those are when teachers do non-instructional things on the day. So that was a great event. We are right in the middle of our Hispanic Heritage Month showcases. That is a picture on the upper right-hand corner from either Monday or Tuesday's performance. So the way that showcases work at Central High School is that showcase is another term for an assembly or a large-scale performance. These performances traditionally are choreographed, designed, and completely executed by students, student clubs, and different cultural groups. This is the first time in Central's history that we're hosting a Hispanic Heritage Month showcase. It was really important to us to just make sure that we were expanding our showcase repertoire and making sure that all groups felt represented. So we have our junior class showcase tomorrow and our senior class showcase on Friday. And then last but not least, our senior students took part in Museum Day last Friday. Museum Day is when members of our senior class visit different museums throughout the city. They went to 6 different museums in Center City last week. Next slide, please. All right, so it is important that if you do not get the updates and the newsletters that I share with the school community, please take this opportunity to update your contact information in our school's student information system. So that QR code on the right-hand side will take you to a Google form. It is a Google form that we've rolled out with our 9th grade families over the summer. And it goes directly to my secretary. She is able to make any changes to phone numbers or email addresses. If for any reason you need to change your home address, if you've moved or if we have the incorrect address on file, we're not able to do that through a Google form. You will need to contact our main office and bring proof of your address in the form, usually of a piece of mail, so that we're able to change it according to school district policy. If you at any point as a parent want to have the guardians listed on your child's profile changed, the way that we do that is one of the parents or guardians listed just needs to contact the main office and let us know what the changes are. And then to close out, just looking ahead through October and November, I want to make sure parents are aware that we have 2 non-attendance days for I'm not sure how I got muted. Oh, there we go. I'm unmuted now. We have a non-attendance day for students on October 27th, and then we will be closed for Election Day on November 7th. We have been in the middle of school selection, which is the application process for prospective students. That window closes on October the 27th. If anybody has friends, family members who are applying to Central High School, I ask you to help us out by spreading the word that the application window will close at that time. A few things to look forward to in November. I know it still feels like a while away, but I like to tell parents information ahead of time. We will be having another homecoming dance this year. The homecoming dance is always special. This is the only dance that is open to all grade levels of students 9 to 12. We have not yet revealed the venue. I will say it's different than last year. And the date of the event, we haven't started selling tickets yet, but we're actually going to be holding our homecoming dance on the evening of Monday, November 6th, because then there is no school on Tuesday, November 7th. A little bit of a sneak peek at some information that is to come. Homecoming tickets are sold by our junior and senior class. So that is Mr. Horowitz and Ms. Zesserman are the faculty sponsors. We are in the second half of the first marking period. So I always encourage parents to make sure that you are connected to the parent portal, staying up to date with your child's record, whether that means their attendance record or their grades. When you're logged into the parent portal, you're able to see in real time all of that information as it is entered. And then, of course, in November, I will share more information about all of the homecoming traditions we have here at Central. But please know that we're in the planning phase for our football game and for our career day celebrations, which always happen the week of Thanksgiving. That is it for me. So I'll take a look in the chat, but of course I will be able to answer more questions as the meeting goes on.
Great, thank you, President Davis. Next up, we have college admissions and post-secondary planning. And as I said, this presentation will be coming to us from Ms. Snyder, assistant principal, in place of Dr. Soda, who's unable to join us this evening. So I'm going to, Ms. Snyder, if you're on and ready to share, I'll stop sharing so you can share your slides.
Actually, we put the slides in your presentation.
Okay. Great.
Okay. I will tell you, when I need you to switch. Hi, everyone. I am Avi Snyder, one of the assistant principals. It's great to be here with all of you. So I help supervise the counselors. So, over the years, I've become very familiar with the process. I'm certainly not the expert that Dr. Soda is, but I'm hoping that I can share some really valuable information with you briefly tonight. These are just some of the things that I'm going to go over. Actually, as we speak tonight in this building, we are having financial aid night. It looks to me like we have at least 100 families in our auditorium learning about the financial aid process. So it's pretty fitting. Next slide, please. Here's just an overview of how we break down our counselors at Central High School. We do it alphabetically. So we have Ms. Sharp, who works with students with the last name A to CR, Ms. Chasen, who is CU to HUM, Dr. Soda, who is HUN to LE, Ms. Hart, who is LI to PAN, Ms. Stern, who is PAND to the, and Ms. Wardlaw, who is the end of the alphabet. We are so lucky to have 6 counselors. There was a dark time at Central not so long ago where we had as few as 2 counselors. So President Davis prioritized counselors and actually purchased a 6th counselor. So we went from 5 to 6 pretty recently, and we are thrilled. Obviously, it's never enough. We would like to have 20 counselors to help support our students, but 6 is the most that we have had in a very long time. Next slide, please. Okay, so college, it's a big topic. Here at Central, we are a college preparatory school. What we mean by that is we believe that every single one of our students at Central High School should be prepared to attend a 4-year college after they graduate. We do have some students who choose alternate paths, but if we look at our data, we are well over 95% of our students attend a 4-year university. There are some other students who choose to go directly to the military, join vocational programs, but the overwhelming majority of our students do attend a 4-year university. So the main thing I want to focus on when it comes to this slide is that we really want to encourage families to support their students in finding the right fit. it is super overwhelming to pick a college. And there are so many factors that come into play when guiding our children to find a school. Here are just a few of the things that we really want to help our students take into consideration when picking a school. First and foremost, I think the most important thing is trying to match an academic profile. So basically, every single college website is going to show data points. They're going to show average GPAs. They're going to show average or median SAT or ACT scores. Those are the first things I really like to encourage students to look at, right? I want them to kind of see where do they fit in comparison to the average student who goes to specific universities. Another very, very important thing we really want students to consider when choosing a school is, what are they interested in? Not every student is going to know what they want to major in. I know, speaking from personal experience, I wasn't sure. I changed my major in college twice. When I graduated, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and look, I'm now a high school assistant principal. So I always try to comfort students in saying, like, we have no expectation that you're going to know what you want to do. But I do think it's important for students to at least get a sense of, what do schools specialize in, right? If you are a student who is very STEMmy and you are STEM focused and you think you are interested in engineering and physics, you should be looking at schools that have strong engineering and physics programs. So while a student doesn't need to know exactly what they want to do, they should try to have an idea of what interests them and try to match schools in that way. Another thing we really want students to keep in mind is what kind of vibe, what kind of culture does a college have, right? So we have some students, because they're in Philadelphia, say, I only feel comfortable in cities. I just want a city school. I always try to push students to think outside the box. I actually grew up in this area and went to school in a much more rural area, and I really loved it. And I ultimately came back to Philadelphia, but I think having those 4 years in a different area was actually really good for me. It exposed me to a different way of life, but we really want students to try to match cultures. Are they looking for a big school, a medium-sized school, maybe a really tiny liberal arts school? Do they want a school, a commuter school? Do they want to live at home, right? All of these are really important questions. So we want students to look into that. And then the final thing, and I honestly think maybe this is the most important, because college is extremely expensive. What kind of tuition am I going to be expected to pay? Can my family and I afford this school? What kind of financial aid packages does this school provide? What kind of debt am I going to graduate in? You know, these are all real important questions that a student needs to ask themselves when trying to find their right fit. Okay, next slide. These are just some other ways that a student can find the correct fit for them. So these are just some of the questions. Like I mentioned before, you know, do I want a public school? So an example of a public college would be a school that receives funding from a state or from a city. So for instance, Penn State is a public Pennsylvania institution. Temple is actually a public institution. An example of a private would be University of Pennsylvania. Liberal arts is a separate category. Liberal arts school, they're their own list of schools. Some examples would be Amherst or Williams or Bucknell or Bowdoin. They are typically much smaller. And liberal arts schools tend to require students to take more general education classes before they go directly into their major. These are some other things to look at, retention rates, you know, what do the college's data look like? You know, how many students who enroll are staying, how many students who enroll are graduating, social activities. If you are looking for a school with a religious focus or, you know, an HBCU or some sort of school that's going to provide a certain group of people, that's something that you need to look at. and so on and so forth. You can kind of see some of these other things, but these are all really important things to consider when determining college fit. Next slide, please. Here are just some links that are very helpful. So these are some tools that a student can use in order to research schools. So Naviance is a free platform that the district provides. It's extremely helpful. Students are familiar with Naviance. We have them do tasks throughout their 4 years at Central. So all students should be familiar. They have lots of different quizzes that you can take that will help you try to find the right fit, as well as career aptitude tests and things like that. These are some other links. College Board has a ton of resources that students can use. There's something called College Navigator, College Greenlight. These are all really helpful tools. The main thing we really want students to think about is how to create a list of schools that is going to hit these 3 things. We have reach schools. So a reach school would be, what's my dream school? I may, it might be a stretch. It might be slightly higher than I have performed in high school, but it's my dream, right? So that's going to be like, UCLA. I've always wanted to go to California. I know it's really hard to get in out of state, but I really want to go. That would be a reach school. A match or a target school. Target schools are the schools that align with a student's academic profile. So when a student would go online and look at a college's median standardized testing scores or median GPA, they match that. Okay. So their score is at least meets or exceeds the median score for standardized testing and GPA. And then a safety school is when you exceed the academic profile. So that's like, I can't imagine a world in which I am not accepted to this school. I think it is very important when a student is creating their college application list that they have all 3 of these schools represented. And personally, I think they should have multiple of each of these 3 categories. We have some, we all know our Central students can be very motivated and sometimes I would say even overachieving. There is no reason why a student should apply to 30 colleges. To me, that is crazy. But I do think having a list between 8 and 12 is reasonable. So when you're thinking of a list, let's use 12 as an example. If we had 4, 4, and 4 from each of those 3 categories, to me, that seems reasonable. Obviously, that doesn't have to be exact, but what makes me the most nervous working with the counselors is when I see a student who has 9 reach schools, 1 safety and 1 target. Believe it or not, I have seen students who apply to all 9 Ivy League universities. And then they'll have, 1 safety school that they don't want to go to. And then unfortunately, we know that college applications and college acceptances can sometimes be fickle. Sometimes we can't predict why a student won't get in, If a school has 4% acceptance rates, we could have the most brilliant, wonderful, deserving student not get in simply because of bad luck. So we always want to make sure that students have schools on their list that are matches and schools on their list that are safeties. We want to make sure that every student is set up for success. Next slide, please. Okay, here's just a graphic that kind of breaks down 4 different categories of applications. So there are 4 different categories. There are regular decision acceptances, rolling admissions, early action, and early decision. I'm going to go through each one. Let's start with early decision. Early decision, when a student applies early decision to a college, what that means is it is a binding application. So if you apply early decision to a college, you have to go there. You are saying, this is my dream school. If I get in, I am going. There are pros and cons to early decision. One pro is that early decision applications are due November 1st. What that means also is students find out where they're going much sooner. Some schools will let you know as soon as December 1st if you get in early decision. Most are around December 15th. So November 1st is the deadline. Some schools as early as October 15th. You really want to guide your students through the process by going on colleges application or going on their websites and looking at their admissions pages. But for the most part, November 1st is the early decision application deadline. As I mentioned before, it is binding. The reason why students like early decision and why I like it, as long as you are positive that you want to go to a school and that you can afford a school, is it does increase your chance of getting accepted. All colleges have a higher admissions rate or higher admissions percentage for early decision than any other category. That is the reason why a student would do early decision. With that said, if you apply early decision and you get in, you do not have the ability to negotiate your financial aid package, meaning the college will provide you what they are giving you from a financial aid perspective, and that is it, because you have agreed to apply in a binding relationship. Early action is similar to early decision in that it's an earlier deadline. Typically, it can also be November 1st. It might vary slightly. It could be later in November. Students will find out typically in February, so still early, but it is not binding. So the benefit is that you're still demonstrating to colleges that you really want to go there, but it is not binding. You do have the ability to compare financial aid packages from a variety of schools, but you do apply a little earlier than regular decision and you find out earlier. Skipping to regular decision. Regular decision is due between January 1st and January 15th, and students do not find out until typically March or April. It is a much later process. Regular decision is obviously the most commonly applied platform. That's where most students will send most of their applications through regular decision. It certainly does not require you to commit. Your likelihood of getting in is, it's not prioritized the way it is for early decision or early action, which is somewhere in the middle. And then finally, rolling admissions. Mostly only bigger state schools use rolling admissions, but rolling admissions is interesting because you apply whenever, so throughout the year, and you find out as they process the application. So it really is kind of a first come, first serve process. Some schools will let you know as soon as 4 weeks after putting in an application. I know Penn State has a rolling process. Pittsburgh has a rolling process. So there are a lot of schools that also use the rolling admissions process, meaning you could find out at any time whether or not you are accepted. So all 4 of these are valuable. Again, the main thing I think to consider is the early decision. Early decision can be great, but again, you must be sure that you want to go to that school and that you are okay receiving any financial aid package that they provide. Next slide, please. Application components. So applying to college can be daunting for our students. Obviously, our counselors are wonderful, but they are not personal college counselors. Their goal is to meet with every senior, but they are not sitting down and doing the application with the student. They are helping them, they're answering questions, they are supporting, but the actual submitting of the application, the preparing of the application is done between the student and hopefully the parent. We really encourage parents to support their students throughout this process because it is intimidating and it is time consuming and often stressful. So 95% of colleges run their applications through what's called the Common Application, also known as the Common App. Some schools go through something else. There's something called the Coalition. It's very rare. I know Georgetown University is one of those that doesn't use the Common App. But Common App is a platform where students will be able to apply to multiple colleges. There are common essays that they write. Some schools might have their own unique supplements, but that will be indicated. Students will also upload letters of recommendations. Well, really what they're doing is they are assigning recommendations to teachers, and then teachers upload them through Naviance. So students don't see their recommendations. So what we encourage students to do is to ask a teacher, typically before they leave junior year or right in the fall of senior year, and say, "Hi, Ms. Snyder, will you write my recommendation?" They will send a teacher, they will add them to Naviance. I get an email saying, so-and-so requests that you write their recommendation, and then we would upload it directly. That then gets matched with their common application. They will also put in any application fees or fee waivers. They will upload they will self-report their grades and their SAT scores, but then also the counselors will upload their actual transcript, and College Board will send their SAT and or ACT scores. So it'll all kind of get bundled into one, and then it all gets sent to colleges. It's very important that students use the resources that have been shared with them on Google Classroom. There are steppers for how to do all of this. There are steppers for how to use Naviance. There are steppers for how to do the Common App. But fortunately, it is pretty user-friendly. It is mostly intuitive when using Common App and using Naviance. Next slide, please. This slide, it's just a picture of it. This is just a screenshot of a transcript. In case you wanted to know what a transcript looks like, this is what it looks like. So the transcript will have the student's name, their student ID number. It'll show all of the courses that they've taken. It'll show the grades that they've received. It will show their weighted GPA and their unweighted GPA. Colleges will typically request both. So a weighted GPA is going to factor in the value or the weight of the class. So in case you didn't know, at Central, a standard class is weighted as a 1.1, an honors class is weighted as a 1.15, and an AP or IB class is weighted as a 1.2. That would be why a student's weighted GPA is higher than their unweighted GPA. Colleges typically want both. A student might ask for their transcript. Counselors or myself and sometimes President Davis will send them as well. But it is part of the application process that the counselor will upload when they submit a student's application to college. Next slide, please. Here are just some links related to financial aid. So these are all super important. I will spend a minute just kind of going over the difference between FAFSA and a CSS profile. So FAFSA is federal student aid. So what that means is it is government provided aid. So this obviously has to do with a student's family's income. So FAFSA, they're going to ask for all sorts of different information. They're probably going to ask for W-2s or tax information. In order to qualify for federal financial aid, obviously, a family does have to be documented. That is a challenge that we have run into, but we always have supported our students to navigate that process. But federal financial aid is filled out by the family. They look at W-2s and a whole host of information to come up with a number of aid that they will provide a family for college. This is federal student loans that is expected to be paid back. Obviously, there have been some kind of, between different presidential groups in power. Sometimes they have waived some loans, they brought them back. It's pretty complicated, but this typically federal financial aid is expected to be paid back. And the interest rates sadly are not, they're fairly high. I've had federal financial aid at times in my life and interest rates were as high as 6%. So it's a challenging process, but FAFSA is the federal financial aid, whereas the CSS profile is independent financial aid. So that's going to be college specific aid. So we obviously want families to fill out both. So let me give you an example of why you would do the CSS profile. The CSS profile, let's say you're going to University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania is one of the few schools that actually provide what's called grant-based aid. Grant-based aid is need-based, meaning you would fill out a CSS profile, and based on what your family's income is, they will give you or grant you that money. So I have had students pay as little as $1,000 per year to go to Penn. On paper, Penn is about $75,000 a year in tuition, room, and board. So University of Pennsylvania is one of those schools that provide what's called grant-based aid. I know Johns Hopkins is another school that does that. A lot of the Ivy League schools do that. Other schools might not do grant-based aid or need-based aid, but they will give you more loans at lower interest rates than the federal government. So we certainly encourage our students to do both. Fill out the FAFSA, fill out the CSS profile. And then there are some other things that will show you scholarships, private scholarships. There are scholarships for all sorts of different types of things. I recommend students go to all of them. Try everything. The one thing I will say, please be suspicious and be wary of anything that asks you to pay. So if there is a website that says, please pay $50 and we will help you find the most scholarships, I never recommend those. There are plenty of free platforms that do not ask for your personal financials in order to look for scholarships. Okay. So just something to consider. There are ways to appeal financial aid decisions. So if, let's say your student does do that early decision application platform and you get a financial aid package that you think is not fair, you can appeal it. Some schools will work with you. We have had students be successful. Maybe when they applied, their W-2 was higher, but let's say a parent then lost a job. You can then show proof or evidence that we don't have as much money as we did when we first put in this application, and we need an appeal, and a lot of schools will work with you. I think that might be it, but you can go, let me see. That's it. I know that's a lot of information, but I would be happy to answer any questions. Let me take a look at the chat and see. Applying earlier with rolling admissions help your chances with some schools like Pitt. Yes, absolutely. I would, again, rolling really is first come, first serve. So I would always recommend that if your student is applying to a rolling school, first day it opens, get that application in. There's no downside. It's not binding. There's no reason to wait. That's it. I don't see any other questions.
Maybe Snyder, I did have a question. With
Okay.
the Common App, you can apply to some schools and then apply to others later, and then like you submit per school, like you just fill it out, but then you submit per school.
Yeah, so you can just add more schools, and then it will submit the same application. If there's a supplement unique to that school, you might have to go back in and do that. But yes, it's not a one-time only thing. We have students revisit their Common App 100 times. Adding, removing, etc. Oh yeah, some insight on SAT versus ACT versus also like test optional. I could talk about that as well. Okay, so SAT and ACT are both accepted at every single college in the United States. So there's no better or worse test. The thing about the ACT and SAT is that they're slightly different. So what I always encourage students to do is to take a practice test for each. You can find practice tests online. And I always say, what feels better? So ACT tends to be more content-based, meaning more of what they learned throughout their time at school. SAT tends to be more strategy-based, more skill-based. That's not 100% a rule of thumb, but that's like a good kind of overview. Both are great tests. We have kids, I would say the SAT is more popular in this region. ACT is much more popular in the South and Southeast in the United States. You can kind of see like regional differences. For instance, we only offer an SAT in school at Central, but I always recommend that students take a look at both and see what suits them. ACT is scored up to 36. SAT is scored up to 1600. Some some students will take the optional writing section, which would bring you up to 2400. Colleges, some of them have gone test optional, which means you do not have to apply with standardized testing. Many schools allow that. At one point, every school was allowing that. That was mostly a response to COVID. And the fact that there is some concern that these standardized testing are biased, that they are not fair to all students, that they basically students who do not attend specific universities or do not have specific experiences do not do as well. They have worked hard to remove that bias from these standardized testing, but that's kind of some insight as to why schools went test optional. What I will say from my experience is that it is harder to get into college without your test scores. I find that the emphasis on grades becomes so high without standardized testing scores that I only recommend test optional for students who really didn't do as well on their standardized testing as the rest of their profiles. So I always say to a student, if your standardized testing scores meet the median score, I would always include them. That's my opinion. I find that it becomes harder when you go test optional to get into those advanced schools, but we have certainly had students who choose not to send their scores who have had a lot of success. What is Spark? Spark is just a platform that helps students decide their interests. So it helps them answer questions like, what are my personality traits? What are my aptitudes? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Would I do well in a tech job or a finance job or in farming or agriculture? So it's just a platform that helps students kind of decide who they are and what would be a good fit for them. Any other questions? Yes, there should be a recording of the financial aid night that is available. Central students can ask their counselor for a code for a fee waiver to take the SAT. Yes, so Central students can ask their counselors for a code. What I will say is, unfortunately, College Board has changed their policy drastically. It used to be that every single student at Central High School received a fee waiver. Now, believe it or not, they only sent us 40 fee waivers. So now we actually are having to have students go on their College Board's website and put in their parents' financial information, and they are only giving it to our neediest of students. So that has changed. We have appealed a million times to College Board saying we're a Title I school, meaning all of our students receive free and reduced lunch. Everyone should have a fee waiver, but they have not accommodated that request. Any other questions?
Is that the same with the college application fees? So me and my daughter went through the Common App, and one of the questions was like, do you qualify? And it was like, does your school receive, or do you receive free and reduced lunch? But then I was like, well, we have like the community eligibility, so I don't know. I was like, I'm not sure if we say yes or no.
Everyone can write yes. Regardless of your personal situation, all of your students receive free and reduced lunch. That's just a part of going to a Philadelphia school. I believe that will still give you maybe 6 free applications through the Common App, and then you might have to start paying fees after that.
Okay, great.
Ms. Snyder, one thing I would add on is that we at Central High School never collect financial information of families. We'll never ask you, or a member of our faculty will never ask you for your W-2 or anything like that. If it is a financial hardship, the application process, I always ask either parents or students to come to a member of my administrative team privately, because we do have ways to support families from different donations and funds that we've received over the years. We don't broadcast that widely because it's not an unlimited amount of money. But if that is the situation for a family, please come to us, because we have supported students through the application process. We do every single year.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. I'm just, oh, one more just popped up.
It looks like at one point they accepted unlimited applications through Common App with the waiver, so that's great. I hope that that still is the case.
Okay. Thank you so much,
All right.
Snyder. That was great.
Mhm.
I'm just going to, before we get into the committee reports, President Davis, I don't know if now is when you would like to present the fall Title I.
Sure. I'd like to make it brief if that's okay. And then at the end, if anyone has questions, or I can share the slides to put on the Home and School website as well. Just know people are receiving a lot of information through a presentation. I don't want to overdo it. Are you able to allow me to share my screen? Yeah, that worked great. You can see that. Give me a thumbs up. Cool. All right. So I know that we've been receiving a lot of information, so I'm going to try to keep this just about 5 minutes. If you're a parent coming from a school district of Philadelphia school, a lot of this information will look fairly similar. If at any point throughout the year, any family has questions about our Title I programming, they can ask me. And I believe Dr. Scott is also logged on. She works directly with the individuals in the school district of Philadelphia who support our Title I programming. So this is an overview meeting of the Title I support that we receive at Central High School. So as Ms. Snyder was saying, and it connects to the college application process, all schools in the school district of Philadelphia receive Title I funding. The school district is considered to be the LEA, or the educational entity. So the district is then responsible when it receives these funds for distributing them to schools based on 2 criteria. This is not done on the school level. This is done on the district level. So there's a formula that's used that determines the low income status of each school in the school district. Excuse me. This is public information. If you go onto the School District of Philadelphia's website, there's a place where you can see the profile of every school in the city, and it will tell you the percentage of students enrolled at each school who are considered to come from low income families. Each year I'm asked, what is that number? And I will tell you that I'm not sure what it is, but it is not something that we do on the school level. There are a variety of Title I school designations that you'll see across the city of Philadelphia. We are a non-designated school, and that is shared on an upcoming slide. Each year when schools go through the budgeting process of preparing for the next school year, that feels very far away right now. But one part of the process is that we always, excuse me, consider how to use our Title I funding each year. We seek input from our school community to make decisions that are best for us. There's a number of policies, excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat, that we develop each year, and I'm going to share some hyperlinks with you this evening. They will be uploaded to our website. They may be there already. I'll double check when we sign off. But it is the Parent and Family Engagement Policy, as well as the Parent and School Compact. We have a plan that guides our goals and our work each year. And of course, we have a school budget for each school year. We have somebody who's logged on with us tonight, Rashida Polk, and she is the representative who works with Central High School from the Office of Family and Community Engagement. I believe we sent a survey out either last week or the week before asking for input about communication styles, what's working for you, what doesn't work for you. The school district reads all of the responses to these surveys, and we ask you to make sure you take the time to submit that. Okay, so the first survey that, the first policy that I want to review really briefly is the Family and School Engagement Policy. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I believe I changed the settings to be public so that everyone, oh, sorry, I'm just looking for my chat, so that everybody can access them. I'll put it on there in a moment. Go back. Sorry, I will find my chat when I'm not sharing my screen. But the family engagement policy lays out the ways that we work with families throughout the year. So these meetings are one example. There will always be members of my administrative team on the meetings to share work and information about what we do at Central High School. There are the newsletters that I send out roughly every 2 weeks are another example of ways that we share information about what happens on the school level. That is why it's so important to have your up-to-date contact information in our system. The other document that I will put into the chat is called the Compact. The Compact lays out the responsibilities of various stakeholders in our school community. So that means, what do we seek to do as a Central High School faculty? What do we expect of our student population? What we ask of our parents and our students, as well as our community members as well. I will put the link to the Compact in the chat as well after I'm finished sharing my screen. Every school in the school district of Philadelphia has a school plan that is written and submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. The goals on our school plan are closely aligned to the school board's goals for the school district. There are very similar goals each year that are based around our proficiency as well as our growth on standardized exams. So that's Keystone exams, as well as a number of other goals as well. We have an attendance goal, which is why I'm frequently sharing information about our attendance numbers too. Last but not least, I wanted just to provide an overview of what our budget, and specifically our Title I budget, is looking like for this year. We receive just about, well, it's on the upcoming slide, $900,000 or so in our Title I budget. Let me go forward a slide and I can come back. There we go. $936,000 in Title I spending. That is for this current school year. The overwhelming majority of this funding is spent on additional staffing, meaning teachers. These are teachers that go above and beyond what is considered to be enrollment-driven teachers needed at Central High School. So we have 6 teachers at Central, or sorry, 6 faculty positions. I believe it's 4 teachers this current year that are funded directly through our Title I dollars. Additionally, there are funds that are called non-full-time purchases. There is money each year set aside for parent and family engagement. On the previous slide, you can see at the bottom that is just under $15,000. This is the money that we use to fund our student planners that every child received in the beginning of the year. It has a printout of our student and family handbook as well. These are some of the funds that we use to buy informational folders for all of our 9th graders who come to our orientation. We have exhausted only a fraction of these funds this year, and throughout the year, we're going to be spending them in ways that only bolster family engagement at Central. There's a number of activities that we plan across the year, and some in partnership with the home and school, some in partnership with the school district. And it's really important to us that we're doing the best that we can to put on sessions and activities that are important to you. We get lots of questions each year about financial aid night, support with preparing your child for the SAT or the ACT, information about post-secondary planning. We always have sessions in the wintertime about course selection for current students, and so on and so forth. We are absolutely open to feedback and suggestions about workshops that members of our parent and family community would like to see on the school level. If you have suggestions, you can feel free to send them directly to me or any member of my administrative team. The home and school, we also work very closely in designing workshops and sometimes bringing different consultants and other organizations who support the work we do in school to Central. And then the last point that I'll say is that we have a number of events throughout the year, sometimes developed by my administrative team, but oftentimes they're events that are developed and promoted by students or student clubs. So for example, this Friday, we have our Hispanic Heritage Month showcase. There is a special event just for parents and families that starts at 5 o'clock on Friday. That is free. It is open to all members of our school community. And we really like to create a number of events across the year where we can welcome people in to see the work that is done here. Other examples would be our musical that's going to be coming up in the spring. We have concerts throughout the year, our athletic events, so on and so forth. And then last but not least, we absolutely let families know each year around the qualifications and certifications of teachers and paraprofessionals who work at our school. Our teachers at Central High School are required to be appropriately certified with the state of Pennsylvania. Those bullet points there name what that means. And to build on top of that, if there are teachers that your child has on their schedule who do not have a full-time permanent certification, if they have an emergency certification, we will always let you know. We have 2 teachers currently at Central High School who are working under emergency certifications, and those teachers sent notification emails to their parents earlier this week. Last year, we had, I think, 5 or 6 teachers under emergency certifications. I will say that's not uncommon in the school district of Philadelphia. When people go either a non-traditional route or they change careers, it takes time to get a state level certification. When I started as a teacher, I had an emergency certification as well for 1 year. We will always let you know. And if you as a parent ever have any questions about the qualifications or certifications of your child's teacher, I ask that you just reach out. This says make an appointment. You could just send me an email or any member of my administrative team. Then that would be the 4-week letter. All right, and I think we're getting to the end of our slides. As I said, there's a number of designations that are given to all Title I schools in the state of Pennsylvania. We are a non-designated school. There is a website at the bottom, futurereadypa.org. You can log on, you can type the name of any school in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and read all about their school profile. Schools receive designations based on their performance on standardized tests for the most part. Because Central High School historically has very high achievement levels on our standardized exams, it is unlikely that we will ever become a designated school. But you can check out that website to learn more about that topic. And then last but not least, I mean, it's a little cheesy, but Central High School definitely needs you. Logging on and being present in home and school meetings is one great way to get involved. But I know that doesn't always work for everybody. If you like to volunteer, if you like to get involved, just reach out and we would love to have you here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, President Davis.
I've been talking for over 12 hours, so I think I'm just losing my voice at this point. But I appreciate you, and I'm going to answer any questions I see in the chat.
Thank you. So I'm going to skip back to our committee presentations, and we'll just do a quick run through of those with some introductions scattered. I did not introduce myself. I'm Leslie Medley. I'm the president of the HSA, and I have a 284 here at Central. Our first committee report is the treasurer's report from Nina Liu, who I think may be on the call, maybe in the meeting now. If she's not, I know she was.
Hey, Leslie, I'm driving. Do you mind doing the slides for me, please? Thank you.
No problem. So as you can see here, we have a healthy balance of 71,250. Income is 8,717, and you can see the breakdown here. Deductions, these are from last school year. And you can see we've given grants to the PE department. We've supported the Anti-Racism Network Scholarship, paid for some our spring auction costs, and so on. So just to give you an idea of where your donations go and what they help to support at Central. Upcoming expenditures are planned for renovations or furnishings in the school. So we're going to be doing, and I think Rob and Dominic may get into this more, but we'll be doing renovations in room 40, which is a basement room that will have space for students to study and lounge, as well as purchasing furniture for another room, room 241. And you can see the planned expenditure there. And we will update you all as we make these purchases in our monthly meetings. I just want to say also that we do give departmental grants across the schools, so you will be seeing the updates on how that money is spent. Each department at the school receives a grant of $2,000 from the HSA. Next is fundraising, and Robin Dominic is our committee head.
Hi everyone. I'm Robin. Here is if anybody wants to scan the link, that's the link for Spiritware. And I believe that's all online. So Leslie, remind me, is that going to be shipped to people, or will we be distributing that through this office?
That's going to be distributed to students at school. So
at school. Okay, perfect. Okay. So if you want something, go on there and we'll get that delivered to school. It's going to close October 20th, and then we'll open it again before the holidays. Just to talk about, we're fundraising. So I wanted to, we'll try to get some pictures out of before and afters of things that we're doing. But just so that the department grants have been well used in the past couple of years. It's been great, and it's so nice to give the teachers $2,000. We give them $2,000. They submit the grants. We give them $2,000. It's great. It certainly helps the entire school and all of our students. This hallway furniture that's going to be built, that we had fundraised for last year. The kids sit on, during their lunch breaks, they're sitting on the floor. I witnessed it. They're sitting on the floor. So it'll be great to get some additional furniture there for kids to hang out, to sit in as they're eating their lunch, et cetera, hanging out during their lunch periods. The room 241, there's some furniture. That's the student association space. And then room 40, which is in the basement, which was another student, student hangout place that we were hoping to support. President Davis has identified some flooring, and we have a quote, so that, we're excited that we're going to be able to spend some money there as well. And then we're always supporting student events throughout the year. And there were some tablecloths. I don't know if anybody was at the auction to see. We did contribute to the purchase of those central tablecloths, and that was great. So this year, and most importantly, so for our fundraisers this year, we're going to have Caring for Central. That's kind of our fall fundraiser. And that's just a call for donations to the HSA. I have not sent that out yet because we're still working with the administration to figure out what our big ask is going to be for this year. And then, of course, we're going to have our Celebrating Central auction. It's May 4th. I've reserved the space already, and it's in the Discovery Center in Fairmount Park. So that was a beautiful space last year. It overlooks the reservoir. We had some outdoor and indoor space. So that was 2 years ago that we had done that. So we're going to go with that space again this year. So I'm going to put out a request for volunteers to help out with the auction. We'll get started on that shortly. And that's all I have. So, and also be on the lookout for just a straight, donation. You can donate to the home and school. It is so appreciated. We're so fortunate that our kids are here at, Central. It's a great school. Have one that's gone through and one that's almost graduating, but it's just amazing that our kids have had this opportunity. So it's always nice to give back to the school. So that's
Absolutely.
it. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. We also have a campus beautification committee headed by Terry Jack and Anne Marie Thompson.
Hi, sorry, there's a Philly celebration happening in my my living room. We are hoping to do multiple cleanups before the end of the year, and to get students involved in all of the events, especially with the updated service hour requirements where students can submit their service hours by the end of the year, I think the 1st of January, for reduced number of hours. We are still working on the best dates to have those. So stay tuned to, I will send out notifications through the HSA Google group and anywhere that we can invite students to join in. They will also likely get notifications through their Google Classrooms. Please email me if you're interested in getting involved in campus beautification and the many projects we're hoping to get to this year, and spread the word.
Thank you, Terry. Next is our Anti-Racism Network report, and the network lead is Rita Robinson, who also doubles as Vice President of the HSA.
Thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here tonight. Generally, we get to do a little bit of an introduction during orientation for freshman orientation, and this year it was phenomenally done differently and done well. And so we just want to introduce ourselves to everyone for those that are incoming or your first time to a HSA meeting or your first time hearing about us. This network is a group of parents that meets to discuss things going on at Central and also how we can support our Central community. And we aim to make Central a safe and anti-racist space through education and advocacy. We just had our first meeting this past Sunday, and our next meeting is on Sunday, November 12th at 4 p.m. This past Sunday, we did talk about some Central updates. For those of you who know and remember Ms. Thornton, she was the previous DEI leader at Central. She's no longer with us, and she has taken a position with the district. And so we discussed, what that looks like for Central in the upcoming year. And one big thing I want to amplify is that Central is a pilot school for creating an equity team. And this is a initiative set forth by the school district, but I can say Central has been doing this work. The equity team is consistent of staff and faculty of Central. And there is an interest to include parents in the meetings and be a part of the team. If you are interested in joining the Central Equity Team or to find out more information, you can send an email to myself, or you can send an email to President Davis to find out more and get more information about that. Specifically with the ARN, we seek to provide educational opportunities. And so we generally gather together and get a speaker to speak to our Central community. We have opportunities where we invite students to our meetings so we can hear directly from them and what's going on in the school. And another big initiative that we do is we give out scholarships to our graduating seniors that have demonstrated a strong commitment to combating racism. And it doesn't have to be in Central, it can be outside of the walls of Central. And I can tell you firsthand, acknowledging the work that our students do, they do a phenomenal job and are stellar students. And so to reward them with scholarships is a great opportunity, which you can also donate to. But we invite you all to come out to our next meeting on November 12th. We're specifically seeking students of our diverse cultural backgrounds. We are a group of diverse and cultural parents as well. And we get to do other things. Sometimes we support Central and school trips to Howard University, for example, or to a private screening of a movie. Those were some of the initiatives last year, and this year I know we'll be supporting for a trip to the Holocaust Museum. So we look forward to you coming out to our meetings to find out more and to do some of the work that needs to be done to support our students. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Rita. Next up is the Safety First Coalition, and I think Michelle Lopez is still with us this evening.
Yes.
Great.
Hey, everyone. So yeah, I'm gonna do the same and introduce the Safety First Coalition to new parents, and really advocate that hopefully you can join us. It's we started this group. It was a parent group that was started based on there's always been violence in Philadelphia, of course, But there was an uptick of violence a couple years ago on SEPTA, particularly in regards to Central students, and we wanted to create a network that would support our students in relationship to violence and bullying. So yeah, some of it is just looking to changing the culture of how we as a community are identifying with each other. So yeah, so some of the themes that we're thinking about are in relationship to students just having a voice, and parents also finding a community in ways that we can create different networks to support each other as students are traveling through the city, but also just in relationship to the ways that everyone's connecting to each other. The things that we did last year where we, through actually the HSA, we provided bystander intervention training for every single student and for all the parents, where students were trained on how, if they saw anything brewing in terms of potential violence, that they could help and safely intervene and mitigate the possibility of violence. So yeah, if you're interested, now is a good time to join. Where there's going to be a meeting in November. We're eventually going to also team up and do some meetings with the ARN network as well, to because a lot of these themes align. So you can email me here at michellelopez@me.com. And yeah, the other thing that I wanted to plug really quickly is that there's the app, the SEPTA Safety Watch app, that has a camera on it where you can also just report any incidents through your phone if you see anything that's happening on SEPTA. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. You've met a few of our HSA members through these committee presentations. So here's a list of our committees and our chairs. We're always looking for help from new parents, volunteers who would like to help with some of these committees. A few of these are headed by parents who are on their way out of Central, sadly. So we're hoping, for instance, that people might be able to volunteer to help with the auction and learn more about the fundraising committee, because Robin Dominic has a senior, and her husband, who is our tech volunteer and sort of oversees the HSA website, will also be leaving. So we are looking for volunteers in a number of areas. So you can reach out through the chat, or contact any of us at the HSA or through the parent listserv.
Can I just want anyone specifically who knows like website, our friend who helped with websites, their child graduated last year. So I could definitely use help with updating the Central website. Or the home and school, the HSA Central website, not the school's website. So it's just really uploading this meeting recording and the minutes. So it's like once a month, shouldn't take more than 20-25 minutes. And Tony is happy to train anyone if you need help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Esther. This is a list of our parent class reps for each of the classes, and we're going to hear from some of them this evening. The first update is for 283, our senior class. I think we have both parent reps on tonight.
I think I'm giving the update, I think. Hi, I'm Jamie. So our update is a little bit long because Mr. Horwitz is our class sponsor, and he always has a lot of information to share, which is great. So seniors may be going on college visits. If they are doing this, they can get an excused absence, but they need to get a form from Mr. Horowitz. Preferably, they should give 2 weeks notice and have some kind of documentation from the college that they were there. If your child is applying to colleges, they should be asking for recommendations now. And again, if they have questions about that, they should probably go see their counselor. There are going to be some amnesty reading days for seniors where they can work on applications, October 30th to November 1st. We have, is there another page after this one too, Esther? Or okay. All right, well, I'll go back. I'm still okay. Cap and gown. I will paste the link when I'm done talking, but if your student hasn't ordered, they need to. Really, really important for seniors and senior parents to stay in the loop with information. So your student should be checking their Google Classrooms frequently, at least daily. And if you are not getting, if you are a senior 283 parent and you're not getting emails from Mr. Horowitz, you should email him and get on his list because he has a really good list that keeps us all in the loop. Now I'm ready for the next one. Museum Day was last week, and I think it was a great success. He's got a whole lot of other spirit events in mind, including Senior Sunrise on October 30th, which is a really fun, very early morning event in which seniors literally gather at the school and watch the sunrise. And it's just kind of a chill spirit hangout, fun activity. Cardigans are on sale for $60. You can have them personalized. I get to be, I feel like I'm President Davis passed this month. Mr. Horowitz was ready to share the site of homecoming, so I will just share it. It is November 6th, as President Davis said, and it's going to be at the Lowe's Hotel from 7 to 11 p.m. And just, you know, again, pay attention to information channels to find out when tickets are going on sale. Class buttons, I guess they were voting on class buttons, and now they're going to be distributed next week. Again, what I mentioned about emailing Mr. Horowitz if you want to be on his list. Powder Puff Football is a really fun spirit event in which girls in the junior class play football against girls in the senior class, and they actually have a bunch of practices and form a team, and it's really fun. And our juniors won last year, which is, I think, pretty unusual. So I'm sure they're ready to kind of make that a tradition. And College Young Alumni Speaker Series is on Google Meet at the end of the month. I don't know a lot about that one.
Thank you,
I think
Jane.
that's it.
284, Amy's not with us. Esther, do you want to do this one?
Sure. Okay, so also long, and I have a suspicion Mr. Horowitz and Ms. Sesserman work on these together. But yes, junior, super, super duper important. We just had this college, you know, talk. Schools are gonna really look at it, especially because they don't really get your senior year grades. So looking to see growth and looking to see, you know, taking those challenging courses and where you're at with your grades. So make sure to talk to your junior about that. Okay, so community service. Juniors are required to complete 25 hours of community service by January 3rd or 30 hours by May 6th. I believe this is the same.
Oh,
yeah, no.
sorry.
Across multiple classes. We don't really have class updates for the other classes, so just for, you know, 285, 286, also keep that in mind, community service. And those go to the faculty sponsors. They're the ones who put the grades in for all of that, so they check the hours, they receive the logs for all of that, and it's usually like a letter. You want to have something that shows that says they worked 10 hours or whatever, 4 hours at so-and-so place on this date. Okay, dues. So dues can be paid through the online platform that the school district launched, I think last year or the year before. So you log in, you create an account that you link to your child, and school dues will be listed on there as one of the things that you need to pay. Half of the 250 this year, and then the remaining 125 next year. And all the things that are listed there are kind of what it covers. And yes, if there's hardship, just please make sure to reach out to Ms. Zesterman and speak to her about that. The same note about the Google Classroom. So your students should be checking this to make sure they are keeping up with any important class information. They have picked the class button winner. So Kingsley Deng, they designed the winning button, so they will receive their buttons in the next week or two. Powder Puff Girls football game, so 284 versus 283. So make sure to sign up for that. And for parents to submit their email addresses for 284 updates, just make sure your student is looking at their Google Classroom, filling out that form with your email so that they receive that. And if you have any questions, just contact the class sponsor. And I don't think it made the Google slide deck, but I had all the class officers for 283, 284, and 285. So I'm just going to copy that in the chat, and just congratulations to all of them.
Thank you, Esther. So we, as Esther mentioned, we don't have updates for the last two classes. But I think a lot of the announcements, we have another announcement page, apply across all of the classes. So I will keep going here. The Alumni Association representative is Cynthia Lech. She's on site at the school. She's not here today, or she's not joining us this evening. So I'll just show her slide. So this, I think, is their capital campaign. 7 years ago, they embarked on their campaign to provide 21st century learning opportunities, deliver competitive enrichment programs, and strengthen pathways for STEM education. If your family, company, or foundation is interested in making a major gift, please contact Cynthia. Her email address is there. I think her information may also be available on the central website. And I think she has a second page. Sorry, I can't see the top of my slide here. Oh,
I can share, Leslie.
No,
I know
thank
this
you.
all really well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so yeah, Cynthia was my classmate and friend. So they have an office on our 3rd floor. She's in our building multiple days per week, and their team is expanding. So there's currently job postings up to hire an operations manager and a major gift officer. It's posted on LinkedIn, but if you know someone who's interested in the role, they can reach out to me directly or Cynthia. The Alumni Association always hosts students for community service opportunities as well. And this year specifically, they're seeking junior and senior student ambassadors. They had some interns last year. These are students who can support some of their events after school, speak to alumni classes who come back for reunions, host tours throughout the building. So if your child is somebody who likes to talk to alumni and do those sorts of things, please contact Cynthia or myself. And Cynthia's information is on the previous slide. Last but not least, they have some really great dedication opportunities, which can also be graduation gifts or end of year gifts for your students. So there are opportunities to make donations and to have an engraved plaque in the auditorium with your child's name. There are some central license plates where actually the letters of your license plate are in that picture right there. Cynthia says 263, which is her class number. I will say, I don't think anyone has bought the 283, 284, 285, or 286 license plate. So that could be yours. And I believe that's it.
Thank you. Here's a list of our upcoming HSA meetings. Just a note that these are all virtual. We did try to return to a hybrid meeting format. We didn't have a lot of turnout, so we returned to all virtual and have enjoyed pretty good attendance at our meetings. We are looking for ways to get back into the school, bring parents to the school, and we'll be updating families on that. Hopefully sort of topical discussions with parents and maybe a speaker. So those are our planned meeting dates and topics for the rest of the school year. Some upcoming dates, I think a lot of these were already covered, but the college fair at Girls High on the 14th, multicultural admissions, and I pulled all of these from the central calendar. Multicultural admissions college fair at 440 Broad Street on October 25th. Have some of the days, staff professional development days when the school is closed, the senior amnesty dates that President Davis already mentioned. And I think that is it. I'll leave that up for a second. I'll just, a quick reminder, if you have not already signed in to the chat with your email address, student's name, if you could do that before signing off, that would be great. I do see a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if, oh, Esther posted the class officers here. Okay, no questions. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. It was a lot of information, and we hope you got something out of it. This meeting, the recording will be posted on the HSA site. The slides have been made available, but I just want to confirm, President Davis, the slides or talk from Financial Aid Night, will there be something made available to parents who weren't able to attend? I think that was a question from earlier.
I think that someone answered that they will be, but I don't have access to them, so I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
And then there was a question in the chat asking if there will be a CIEE presentation to students. The answer to that question is yes, and that is coordinated by Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Harrington.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining this evening. We will see you next month. And go Phillies.
Go Phillies. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Night, everyone.